Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a moment in history that's often forgotten but is absolutely crucial: the wild, chaotic birth of multi-party democracy in the Ottoman Empire.
Imagine this. It's 1908. After decades of authoritarian rule under Sultan Abdulhamid II, a revolution just explodes across the Ottoman Empire. And this quote, you can just feel the hope, right? It was a spark that promised a brand new era of freedom.
I mean, the speed of this change was just breathtaking. In a handful of months, you go from an absolute monarchy to a constitutional government. The big question on everyone's mind was, okay, what now? What do we do with all this new freedom?
So, to get our heads around this, here's how we'll break it down. We'll start with that initial promise, see how it fractured into two competing visions, look at the media war that followed, and then the big one, when the whole system just breaks. Finally, we'll touch on the legacy it left behind.
Okay, so that first taste of freedom must have been absolutely intoxicating, and you could see this explosion of liberty nowhere more clearly than in the press.
In just a quick moment here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on that notification bell, and share and like our explainers. The information we're covering today has all been compiled from open sources. Thank you.
With censorship gone, it was like a dam burst. A total torrent of public debate was just uncorked. All of a sudden, political fights weren't happening in secret societies anymore. They were being waged on the front pages of more than 200 new publications that basically popped up overnight.
But, as often happens, this newfound freedom started to reveal some really deep cracks among the revolutionaries themselves. They had all agreed on getting rid of the old system, sure, but what to build in its place? Well, that's when they started fighting each other.
And at the absolute heart of the disagreement was this concept called Ottoman merkeziyet, or decentralization. This one idea really represented two fundamentally different paths forward for holding together a very fragile multi-ethnic empire.
So, two camps formed pretty quickly around this debate. On one side, you had the very powerful Committee of Union and Progress, or CUP. They envisioned a strong, centralized state run from the top down by the military and the bureaucracy. On the other side, you had the brand new Ahrar Fırkası, the Liberal Union. They were all about that decentralized model, championing individual initiative, which, as you can imagine, really appealed to the empire's diverse minority groups who were worried about a new kind of tyranny. This right here, this was a political fault line that would define things for the next 100 years.
Now, this clash of ideas wasn't just some polite debate in Parliament. No way. It exploded into a vicious public war fought with ink and paper.
See, each party had its champion newspaper, Tanin for the sup, Osmanli for the opposition, and they used them like weapons, just relentlessly attacking their rivals, shaping public opinion, and cranking up the political tension with every single issue.
The CUP-aligned press started pushing this idea of a dominant nation. They argued for Turkish primacy in the empire, which, as you can see from this quote, deeply alarmed the empire's huge populations of Greeks, Armenians, Arabs, and everyone else. In response, the Ahrar Fırkası and their allies in the press argued that the only way forward was to embrace a shared Ottoman identity. They accused the CUP of completely betraying the revolution's original promise of unity and equality for all.
But this wasn't just a debate. The ruling QCUP started using its power in the government to silence anyone who disagreed. It started with shutting down opposition papers, but it quickly escalated to intimidation, arrests, and then outright political violence that sent shockwaves through the capital.
And just 1 week after that very public assassination of the journalist Hasan Fehmi, all that simmering tension finally boiled over. The system snapped. This was the 31 March incident.
So what actually caused this rebellion? You've got soldiers storming parliament, the government completely collapsing. What happened? Well, the answer is incredibly complicated, and historians are still debating it today.
There are a few competing and pretty explosive explanations. Was it a real religious backlash against the CUP, stirred up by the opposition? Was it a clever false flag operation by the CUP themselves to justify a final crackdown? Or was it simply a mutiny by soldiers who had their own legitimate grievances? In the chaos of that moment, the sources tell us all of these were considered real possibility.
But whatever the cause, the result was swift and it was decisive. An action army, loyal to the CUP, marched on the capital from Thessaloniki. They crushed the revolt, deposed Sultan Abdulhamid II for good, and used the crisis as the perfect reason to purge all political opposition. The brief, chaotic dream of a pluralistic, multi-party democracy was over.
The failure of this first democratic experiment, well, it left a deep and lasting mark on the region's political DNA.
And here's why this history really matters. That fundamental question at the heart of the fight between the CUP and the RR, it never actually went away. This tension between a strong central government and the demand for more local freedom would become the defining fault line in the region's politics for the next 100 years.
The historical sources themselves show how this split between a centralist, bureaucratic vision and a more liberal, decentralized one has pretty much defined political competition in Turkey ever since, from the Ahra Firkasi all the way up to modern political parties.
And that leaves us with a final, really critical question. The 1908 revolution proved that overthrowing a dictator is one thing, but agreeing on what kind of freedom should replace him? Well, that's a battle that is often far more difficult and far more consequential to win.